Welcome back to Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for our weekly show, recording on 8th of April, brought to you by our show partner, Join Cycling. We've got a quick recap of any other news lingering from the Tour of Flanders weekend. We're going to recap Basque Country Stage 1, GP Indurain, and preview the GC stages coming up for the rest of this week. We recap Volta Limburg, Tour of Hellas, all the Mickey Mouse races that I have to wait to recap. The relegation battle updates are a big topic of the news today. It's 3 months into the season. We'll go through that, as well as some transfers and previews of also Scheldeprijs. So not so much like general news, I would say, around the traps. But Benji, what's any hangovers from the weekend?
Wow, to be honest, Tour of Flanders was a great race. But I do want to bring us to a bit of a discussion here. We had a great Tour of Flanders, the men's race first of all. Great race. We had the big ones fighting each other, the slight resurrection of Wout van Aert, I would say. Visma being there with 3 riders, Little Trek being there with 2 riders, not just Pedersen, but also Stuyven being present. Pogacar ending up with a massive victory once again in RVV, ahead of Mathieu van der Poel. Amazing race, but now that the dust is settled, I'd like to discuss Milano-Sanremo was a fantastic classic. The best MSR I had ever seen. You continuously moan about MSR being the best monument every single year, Patrick. And I've heard you now twice in the last month, after MSR, call a different race the best race of the year. Have you neglected MSR?
I didn't enjoy this year's MSR actually that much.
Really?
Well, like, it was good, it was solid, but the race was over with 30Ks to go. So,
okay,
with the way that main actors behaved, so that actually made it more boring to me.
Is that because we see it from a analytical point of view, where we don't believe Pogacar can drop Van der Poel at that point, while a mainstream cycling fan who doesn't necessarily go into that detail might not see it that way, still sees the battle that we, in our heads, have already decided it's over?
Yeah, I don't believe in miracles. So yeah, if you haven't dropped the fastest sprinter, most explosive rider on the longest climb, and then you relay with him, then he's going to win. So, and that's the same with, you'll hear that in the Roubaix preview. There are certain laws of physics that apply, and maybe Benji and I, especially Benji was fighting the big fight in Belgium, beating the drum of Tadej Pogacar for Tour of Flanders. It might be the reverse actually for Roubaix, because spoilers, but the parkour of races is really important. It's really important where the road goes uphill. I learned about gravity and forgot about it, but it still applies, I think. So, but yeah, I've lost my train of thought. No, I just enjoyed Flanders because it was surprising to me. Like, if you asked me, would Jasper Stuyven and Van Aert have been after the second Kwaremont coming back, in the race, I would have been no. So that was really the surprise, and suspense to me was a bit higher.
I get that. I do think we're a bit an exception to the bunch in that sense. I think the majority of people still felt the tension until the line in MSR with can he come back, any attack, stuff like that. That being said, MSR RVV, I just enjoyed both races. I love both races. I don't feel like I need to really place one above the other here. And RVV with the continuous attacks of Pogacar, I won't even lie, I believe Pogacar would win the race beforehand. We've discussed that drum, you as well, multiple times. But in the race itself, when Van der Poel wasn't dropped yet for the second out of the Kwaremont before that, I was like, there's maybe a small chance he magically holds on. And that small chance gives us the tension we need. It's not like we're seeing 50-kilometer solos in both these races. And that's much better to me than what we saw last year with plenty of the monuments last year. And that's why last year MSR was the better monument in my head. So I feel like we've definitely had a better men's classic season so far than 2024. And that brings me to the next question. I'll go into this question first before we talk about potential news about this race. Women's Tour of Flanders. Is it me, or have the women's classics been boring this year, especially relative to last year, where they were kind of bangers?
Yeah, like Voss hasn't been... Bindu was good. I think Bindu was a pretty good race. Sanremo, you're right, like that was very passive. Vibers was never dropping, and then it was good with ELB attacking, but then Kopecky shut it down. I sort of feel you on that, Benji. The Voss not being in the races, well, like she was in the race, but not being competitive on the weekend. It didn't. It meant that really Kopecky had it clear. So SD Works have been dominating. The whole season so far, pretty much, apart from ELB. But then when she crashed, that kind of soured the race a little bit.
I feel like that already started. It's weird to say because the envelope victory of Lotte Klaas was pretty fantastic. Like, seeing something like that occur is great. But at the end of the day, it's because the peloton looked at each other and said, okay, I don't want to pull, you don't want to pull, I guess we won't pull until it's too late. And then the breakaway wins with riders that would never be in a position to win such a race to begin with. It's great to see once, but I wouldn't want to see that happen twice this season. Then Brugge de Ponnink and Dwevelgem just felt like the majority of the peloton was riding to the finish line with a sprint against Wiebes upcoming. And I don't like seeing that because that's self-deprecating strategy. At the end of the day, Wiebes will 99%, if not more, beat you in that sprint. And if you then don't try anything, then you're not likely to win the race. You're riding for second, basically, which some teams might be happy with, but I don't like seeing that as a cycling fan. And that's my point there. But I do need to bring you to a point here because we've quacked a lot in the last maybe year and a half in the last 5 years on this podcast. We've quacked a lot about concussions and how the sports deals with concussions. But I do think we need to credit teams that do apply concussion protocol or handling concussions in a good way. And for example, this one. At the Tour of Flanders women's race, we've spoken about Longo Orghini being the favorite before the race. She crashed in the run-up to the fast cobble sector, the Doorn, your favorite cobble sector. They always take cobbles away just before you ride it, Patrick. She jumped back on the bike directly after her crash, but the team decided to withdraw her shortly after, showing signs of concussions after a heavy blow to the head. And then eventually, according to UAE Team ADQ press release, she was diagnosed with a concussion and spent 24 hours under observation at the University of Ghent Hospital. She will return to Italy to recover. I think Cycling News also reported on that later. Now, I want to just credit UAE Team ADQ. Like, their rider, Longo Orghini did step on the bike first after having that crash. At the end of the day, that's something in cycling that is going to be hard to push out because a rider that crashes has adrenaline. They literally hit their head, so they might not be in the right state to decide themselves whether they are ready to step on the bike again. But it's good to see that they quickly took her off the bike, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they say she had concussion-like symptoms. Maybe she was literally like weaving around the road or not communicating normally on the radio. It reminds me of like with Adam Yates in the UAE tour, that they pulled him out when he like just wasn't making sense on the radio, I think, before Jebel
Way
Hafid.
too late that day, in my opinion. Because in the UAE Tour, basically last year UAE Tour, I'm pretty sure, men's race, we had Adam Yates, like you said, crash, and it took so long for them to take him out, even though it was so visible that he had issues from the second that he stood up already, in my opinion. So that took too long to me. So I'm happy to see that the UAE team learned from that. If we can even consider those two teams super connected, I don't know how connected they are really in between them.
Yeah, they have separate management, but same. I can't remember if they have the same license, but they have the same sponsors and overall owners. But yeah, I hope ELB recovers and she's back in time for the Ardennes, where it would have been where I can't wait to see who's been preparing for these. You know, Vollering, Kopecky, ELB, all the top hitters for the Ardennes going against each other is something I really want to see, because whilst I think Vollering still the best climber, Kopecky's clearly, she's clearly got something up her sleeve. I think she's approaching the season differently. She's their GC leader outside of Van der Breggen now at SD Works. Tour of the Basque Country we'll get to in a second. There was GP Miguel Indurain first. It's a really punchy race on the Saturday .pro race before the Tour of the Basque Country, which started yesterday on Monday. And we have a pretty good start list there. Almeida didn't do it, so some of the GC favourites like Almeida will opt not to do the one-day race, but it's a very punchy course. There's a final climb that's like a real ramp-ass wall before a technical descent into the finish. And Thibaut Nys just stomped everybody out, like really impressive. This was like a statement victory. He just flew past everybody.
I need your judgment, my friend. Was this attack by Thibaut Nys a thermonuclear attack?
Yeah, for sure, because he normally on this climb, it's really close, 1 or 3 seconds at the top. He really put everyone in the rear window, and he made them look like they were, well, yeah, they were going at a much different speed. He was going twice as fast as everybody else, timed it perfectly. So yeah, this was definitely the definition of a thermonuclear attack. So nice wins. Bora had been they brought a good team. Martinez, Lipovic, Van Gils, like a strong team, Vlasov, but then it didn't happen. Danny Martinez is sporting, I think, one of the worst beards I've ever seen at the moment. I know mustaches became popular with the UAE TT boys, but this Martinez beard, it's got to go. Cofidis were looking good, Benji. Aaron Baru was attacking on the descent all out. Izagirre countered McNulty, but then Izagirre crashed. So I feel like a Cofidis could have had a better result here. But the Tour of the Basque Country, Benji, before we get to, there's a video circulating. Unfortunately, Reggie Miller, the ex-Indiana Pacers shooting guard, shared it on Instagram of the UAE team having a shoot around because the TT yesterday started in a basketball stadium, and it's not good. It's not good for the image of the sport. So if Del Toro got done for damaging the image of the sport when his zipper broke in Torino, I think he got €200 Swiss franc fine. I think for every airballed 3 in this video, the UAE riders have to be fined, again, 200 Swiss francs.
Like, I'm not an expert in basketball, but in what way are they hindering the image of the sport? What movements are they doing wrong to get it right? How would you do it in their position, my friend?
How would I do it?
Yeah.
Benji, they look like, I mean, yeah, it's not good.
Mate, you playing basketball. I can't see it. I'm sorry.
Can't see it. There's videos on on my hidden YouTube channel, which I never promoted. No one can see. I mean, it's
your
like
hidden YouTube channel. It's called Patrick, bro.
My brother's 6'5". My brother's 6'5", and is legit good. So yeah, I got hustle, grit, lunch pail guy. But yeah, this is cyclists are very good at cycling. But at ball sports, like when you see a cyclist outside of their natural habitat, it's always a shock.
How many likes does the usual LRCP weekly get? We got to look in this for a second. Let's take a look. I'm going to videos. I'm going to the last weekly show. Got around 583 likes. Come on, guys. You can do better. I'm sorry. You can do better than that. A lot more people watch it than 583. So get your likes up, boys, because if today's podcast gets 2,000 likes, by the end of the year, you'll get a Patrick versus Benji basketball shoot-off.
Benji, I'll fucking ruin you, man.
Mate, I've got experience in basketball.
I'm so
as a
fast.
5-year-old.
So I got hustle, as I said, hustle, grit, lunch pail, offensive rebound, lockdown defense.
Mate, you're the size of a bollard.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. JJ Barea. I'm Andorran JJ Barea. Anyway, fortunately for UAE, they are much better with the team they brought here on the bike. And in the TT yesterday, they have Almeida as their GC leader, and he's obviously fantastic in a hilly TT. They also bring Del Toro, Soler, McNulty, so they have probably the strongest all-around team. Well, outside of Bora Hansgrohe. But yeah, Almeida was clearly their GC leader going into the race. Bora, as I said, they have Lipovic, Vlasov. Quickstep have Max Schachmann and Van Wilder, sort of punchy guys. Schachmann also was already good in Basque Country. This is where his comeback started last year. He was good in some sprints. And but yeah, I would say UAE the favourites with Almeida in very good shape.
I would reckon as well, to be honest. But we say that. Then look at the Itzulia parkour, and it's not exactly the parkour I'd send Almeida to, you know? It's kind of like the medium mountain hills. Even like stage 3, for example. We go into stage 3. We're already doing the preview of Basque Country, but I think it fits here. Stage 3 is just hills all around. The gradients in the ones in the middle of the stage are not exactly crazy, But the last two climbs, one with 45 kilometers to go, 2.3 kilometers, 11%. That's maybe a bit early to go. But the last one, 1.4K at 10%. I'm sorry, but in my head, that's not Almeida territory, no?
It's not technical run-in, fast descent to the finish. It's more, Thibaut Nace is here though. Schelmoser for Trek. So that's kind of confusing to me. I feel like Nace might cannibalize Schelmoser's GC a little bit, especially when bonus seconds can often be decisive on this in this race, because Thibaut Nace can survive. Like, he will survive that stage and then be the favorite in the sprint. Because he's not going to get dropped on that.
We are recording this right now as the second stage is starting, so the second stage has not finished yet. Sprint. But on paper, Thibaut Nace's positioning in the past has never been good enough to compete in like an actual peloton sprint. Or do you feel like that might change this year? Because for Mur de Huy, he kind of needs positioning skills, eh?
I don't think so, because again, inexplicably, he just didn't try in the TT yesterday. Like Tour de Pologne, he won 3 of the hardest stages and then didn't try in the TT.
Yeah.
So
makes no sense.
Yesterday he didn't try in the TT. My guess is he won't be up there in the sprint today.
Even if you don't want to go for GC, or you might not be able to go for GC, I'd like to see Thibaut Nace try, because I want to know where his potential ceiling is for time trials, Because at the end of the day, doing that one TT effort is not the end of the world for Thibaut Nace either going into the rest of the week. And I don't know. But anyway, I do believe Schelmoser could be pretty good this week. I do believe Nace could be pretty good this week. And I honestly can't wait to see what Thibaut Nace can achieve at the Hill Classics, because I'm looking forward to that for sure. Other teams, Axel Orange for Ineos is also intriguing for a couple of...
Caleb Ewan today.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The combination, they've got someone for all terrains except GC?
Except GC, yeah. They don't have like even really a second-tier GC guy here, with all due respect. Visma brings Zangler, Tullet, and Koos. There's also, but yeah, I'm really interested to see how Schachman goes, and Van Wilder. So even Hater, to be honest.
Yeah, Schachman won the first time trial. We haven't really disclosed it yet, but he won the stage 1 time trial within a second in front of Almeida. But I do want to ask the question, like we see Ben Tullet as a rider, the Seven Oaks Sabre, the man himself. He's been good in like the shorter climbs this year. We saw that at Classica Cayenne, went further from that, was present on the Algarve finish, then dropped from the Pluses wheel, etc. Like, do we know what happened in stage 1 of the time trial? Because like, did he not try? Because I feel like he should try.
I think even a minute down, you're trying. So yeah, losing a minute, he shipped a minute on the first TT, and this parkour, there's no uphill finish in this whole race. Like it's not easy to take back a minute, and there's then about 15 GC guys, 20 GC guys already well ahead of you. You just, to be competitive at World Tour GC level, yeah, you have to be way, way closer. Around like Pello Bilbao, similar sort of size rider, he's giving away 26 seconds. Not great, not terrible, but it's still, he's got 34 seconds already on Tullet. Like, where are you going to find 34 seconds on Bilbao? So, yeah, that's obviously a problem at the outset for him and generally Visma's GC, because Koos also and co not close. But yeah, the TT, Schachman, Almeida, Lipovitz, all within a second of each other. Schachman wins. So Bora, Quickstep, and UAE all have a rider, literally same time. Well, not literally. But Hayter also on 6 seconds. So apart from Almeida, the 5 of the first 6 riders are on a specialized, whether that's coincidence or not. Vlasov on 10 seconds, Van Wilder 11 seconds, Campenaerts 12, Schelmoser 12, Armirel 13, Michael Leonard for Ineos, time trial specialist, 16 seconds, Ben Healy 17, other GC guys, Del Toro, a little bit worse than I expected on 22 seconds. I think his form might be on the downswing. He did crash in GP Indurain, but anyway. Martinez 23 seconds, Bill. So yeah, then like I would say the Gregoire also, that's a strange TT, is it not?
Yeah.
Like Gregoire 42 seconds when he was cooking in Algarve.
I expect more than that from him, and there's a couple of riders in this race, and like I mentioned one of them already earlier, like that I expect a little bit more of in this time trial. Where did Van Gils finish in this time trial?
Not good, I don't think. 48 seconds with Santi and Fisher Black. Dunbar's doing well for his size, 43 seconds. But yeah, Gregoire beat Schachmann in that Algarve TT, and now he's giving 42 seconds to him. So it's just different form lines. A lot of riders have been in shape now since maybe start of February, and it's the start of April, 2 months later, and then we've got the Ardennes. So some riders are different form lines.
Well, Fabio van den Bosche is here for Alpecin de Koning, so he won't be in Uruguay for Alpecin at Paris-Roubaix, it seems. I don't know why I specifically got that out of Itzulia start list, but that's something that I do feel is a bit noticeable. You've got your entire camp of full doggers and so forth in this race as well. But hey, isn't this all going to be kind of looking at, you said it already, there's going to be limited gaps in most of the stages, but it's kind of a map parcours compared to the past, no? There is still space for some raids, but even the Arate finish is gone, no?
Yeah, so the TT is hugely decisive already. I think the next main GC stage is stage 4, which does have an Azure, 11 Ks from the finish. The crest of that, 3.5 Ks, 10% with some ramps. I think there's going to be a selection there, but ultimately it's going to be a sprint of 12 riders because there's still a descent to the finish.
12?
And this
specifically?
12 to 15 riders, won by Thibaut Naes maybe. And because, there's so many riders so close on GC and there's no other, I just think that's how it's going to be. But then
I think 5.
5, okay. Wow, very selective. And then stage 6 is the main GC stage again, which is typical. I do think that's more than hard enough to make a difference. You have a zoo of 35, 40 Ks from the finish. Yeah, 30 Ks from the finish. I can't count.
Ooh.
No, 40.
Krabbelin is so early now.
Yeah. So there, I think numbers will be important, and that's where Bora, Quickstep, and UAE have the advantage on all the other teams. If not Quickstep, more. Yeah, if Vlasov and Lipovic can be strong and they're up there, huge boost for Bora. UAE, they got to have one of Soler or McNulty stay close in GC, I think.
I think a lot for the stage will depend on what GC looks like you say, which is trying to get as many numbers in GC in the top 10 as possible, because on this stage, you can do a raid stage. If you look at the first couple of climbs, Azurki, 5 kilometers at 7.4%, but then Krabbelin is the one where we've seen most of the raids happen in the last couple of years, I would say, even before that, to be honest. But I expect some riders to go in the breakaway as satellite riders, then maybe someone can bridge towards that, make the race hard throughout. Itzua, to me, is the one where you might see GC riders launch against each other, intermediate sprint or bonus sprint before the bottom of the climb and after the descent ends. So quite intriguing. But then from there, after we've got Itzua, there's still a couple of things en route, but there's no major selection possible anymore. So it's really that Itzua climb that might define it. It depends on how the race flows. If there's still domestiques ahead, can it come together? I don't know. It's gonna be that's gonna be a good race. That's for sure. But when it comes to Itzulia, what's sorry?
I think Skjelmoser will win.
I think it's not a terrible pick, to be honest. I do think UAE has the numbers for it. I was not really sold on the TT of McNuggets, that I have to say. But it should be a good race nonetheless. Should I pick a winner as well? Am I forced to pick a winner here?
You are.
I am going to I'm going to go
First
for
World Tour GC victory of Florian Lipovic. I'm not sure how he will go on the Rampas.
I'm a bit scared of the team formation around him, because Martinez, Van Gils, Vlasov are all riders that you don't necessarily usually see domestiquing for one another. And Lipovic for me on paper is the leader, but then he had an interview, I think after the time trial, before the time trial, where he said he was here without pressure as a domestique, which is absolute bullshit. So I'm not having that shit. Lipovic is GC leader. Honestly, I wanted to pick him until he gave an interview like that. I like riders that actually come out and say, I'm the leader here. Let's fucking do it. And that stupid ass shit in interviews, the fucking moaning, I'm domestique, blah, blah, blah. Get the fuck out. So I'm going for Marc Soler.
Marc Soler, yeah. You ask him, Mark, you're domestique today. You're 20 minutes behind in GC. He's like, domestique? Domestique?
Perfect pick, am I right?
Get in the break, buddy. I'm going to take all that time back. He's the best. So yeah, Basque Country is what we'll be watching this week. I'm really excited to watch it. I should have recapped Volta Limburg as a mini. It's called the Mini Amstel Gold Race. Frank van den
Really?
Broek. Yep. Yeah. In Limburg, I watched Limburg provincial television. And
Bro.
I can tell you the advertisements were not targeted to me. It was like funeral home, life insurance, cruise, crematorium. I was like,
Oh,
Jesus
Christ.
It was, man.
That's quite sad.
I was like, I'm not that old yet.
Like, as a Belgian, I'm indoctrinated to dislike the Netherlands and everything around it. I must say I've overcome that weakness of mine.
He's had to work with Luke.
But Volta Limburg Classic being called the BTEC Amstel Gold Race.
It is. It is the B. What, Benji? If Dwars Door is the BTEC or E3 of Tour of Flanders, Volta Limburg is the
E3 is the BTEC. Dwars of Flanders is like the fucking ZTEC.
But
Volta Limburg is not good enough for this shit. I'm sorry.
It's
that's
good.
That's like saying the Circuit des Ardennes is the light version of the Tour de France. No, it's not. It's Dauphiné or Paris-Nice.
Maybe. Anyway, European provincial television, it's always crazy to watch. It's like a time warp. Luke says it's the Mini Amstel in our book, and it's their race, Benji. They're allowed to decide.
If Luke wants to say something, he's got to come on the podcast to say it. The chat in our little recording session here does not count. Sorry, Luke.
I agree with him. So the Mini Amstel Gold Race was won by Dion Smith. Frank van den Broek tried to attack. There was some early moves. And there was a sprint in the end. Nicholas Larsen was very good. He's like on a Conti team now. He's on UnoX before. He was looking good. So that was a pretty decent race. Lotto sprinted with 2, but they just couldn't catch the break in the end. It was like a late break. In Tour of Hellas, we had, you laugh, Benji, but Jayco sent a very good team. Luke Plapp for GC and Dylan Groenewegen for the sprints. Q365 sent Moschetti for the sprints, and then Astana sent Ulisi and Harold Martin Lopez for a GC and points farming to get to in a second. And actually, it was a good race. Moschetti won a couple of sprints ahead of Groenewegen. He's Groenewegen's nemesis. He beat him also in the Alula Tour final sprint, the home race for them.
That's now 3 times. 3 times that Moschetti's beat Groenewegen. And let's be honest about it. Groenewegen was scheduled for this race very early because Jayco internally, like, let's be honest, the reason that they send him to this race is because he's not getting victories elsewhere, and they want him to get some W's to get the motivation and the mental side up. And to have it not work out at Tour of Hellas is such a setback for that. So that's such a shame. Moschetti-wise, though, well, I'm sorry, man, but he's looking good for a potential stage win at the Giro, which Koi's there, so on paper, it's not necessarily easy to do that, but that's what I see as his potential ceiling this year, you know? I see that as a possibility.
He has 4 wins this year.
Yeah, but
not many riders have 4 wins.
I agree. Outside of Groenewegen, it's against relatively shit sprint start lists, but they're still victories.
Oh, GP Crickly, Crickelon, I can't say it.
Against who? Fretin, Hofstetter?
Fretin's a good rider. Hofstetter came fucking 5th in Gent-Wevelgem.
The man gets 2 results like that every decade.
No, we do not underestimate how hard it is to win. He's 2nd in Nokkerenkoers and also Alula, Like Milano.
Are you telling me he's going to win 5 Giro stages? Because I'd say he can win 1.
No, but like he beat Milano. Milano won Brugge de Panne. So
wow, because 95% of the peloton crashed.
Got to be in it to win it. My mouse battery's got an empty, so I can't even see you, Benji. So you're gonna have to. You
got this thing on your keyboard called Alt Tab. If you hold Alt and then you tab, it changes screen.
What's Alt on Mac?
Command Tab.
What's tab?
Do you have that? Bro, tab is the thing above your little shift button. Don't you dare ask what a shift button is.
Yeah, but how do I go back to your tab?
you hold the command button and then you click tab throughout it.
Nah, but that brings up all my applications.
Oh, you want to change the tab, bro?
Yeah,
I don't know the shortcut for that, buddy.
Alrighty. That one here.
What's a tab?
Well, no, because I always complained about this. Like the Mac mouses, you can't charge them and use them at the same time. So
because the fucking cable hole is at the bottom.
Yeah, it's so annoying. Like Steve Jobs, man, what are you doing? Fucking Bill Gates.
I don't think he's doing anything anymore, I'm afraid. But
all right, relegation battle, Benji.
Yes, we got to talk about
sorry,
relegation
I should do Hellas results. Sorry.
We just did an intro.
Luckily, I actually know the Hellas results off by heart. Harold Martin Lopez wins GC ahead of Anton Schiffer. Adrian Mayer comes third for Unibet Theatre Moroccans. Unibet are doing so well this year, by the way, across their whole calendar.
Yeah.
And I think Ulysses was top 5 GC or top 6 GC as well. Astana take a lovely 200-plus point outing again in a 0.1 race. They are coming thick and fast at Picnic and Cofidis. So, yeah, it's incredible how well Astana are doing on the broader calendar. And, yeah, I think they hired a data analyst, French or Italian guy. And they're clearly working completely differently this year to when they decided to sign Rudiger Zerlig and Schwarzman, etc.
That's true. Now, I want to give you some IT consultancy now. Luke has stated that you can use Control Tab to change the browser tab. So try Control and then Tab, which is the third button.
Didn't work. But I'm back. I just charged it. And I just did tour. That is... Talk about elite podcasting, tour of Hellas results off the top.
I'm sorry, but let's be honest, we followed it closely to see what Groenewegen would do.
It did. It was on YouTube. They had like 3 hours of coverage. Relegation battle update. Let's get serious. So Raul wrote an article on lanternerouge.com, but sort of the quarterly update. It's a good time after the Tour of Flanders to really see, after especially a lot of World Tour stage races, where the teams are. Of course, UAE are dominating the ranking this year, even more so than last year. I would say the second tier of the pack is Lidl, XDS, Astana, write that name down, Ineos, Red Bull, Quickstep, Visma are much of a muchness around each other. UAE far off in the distance, but what we're interested in is down in the relegation zone. And Astana have continued their pace of the first 6 weeks. I thought, okay, congratulations, Scaroni, Linsanity run in Mallorca and Tour des Alpes-Maritimes du Var. That's just continued, but with other riders. It's continued where I thought they'd never be so competitive. In the classics, they're fucking 10th and 12th in the Tour of Flanders. It's unbelievable, because the monuments give so many points. Must be now a real concern at Cofidis, Benji, and Picnic post NL.
I fully agree, but just to level it back for the people that might be new to the relegation battle, because we are right now in the last year of a 3-year relegation battle. And we haven't mentioned it too much over the last 2 years because we kind of hyped it up in the last season and built towards the end of the year. We've mentioned it a couple of times. Now this year, it's all for the big bucks because it's the last year of that 3-year relegation battle. This 3-year relegation battle, the cycles decides who gets a World Tour license next year. So the top 18 teams over the last 3 years, 2023, 2024, and 2025, those teams will get a World Tour license for the next 3 years. So the next World Tour cycle. Now, over those last 2 years already, and now the season that is ongoing, you're saying that Astana's scoring so many points. They were looking very bad in the last 2 years, but now they're scoring so many points in this last year that they're climbing out of the relegation zone and honestly getting closer and closer to Picnic Postinel and Cofidis, who are the bottom two, virtually still 17th and 18th team. But if they keep performing like this, might stroll into the relegation zone. And yes, I worry most for Picnic Postinel, actually.
Yeah, because Cofidis are veterans of this. They know the drill. They signed Aaron Baru for farming points, and he goes to a calendar where he can do that. And whereas XDS Astana flipped a switch, signed a lot of riders for this purpose, like Turnison, and it's working because at the start of the year, they were 4,700 points behind the last safe team, which was Cofidis, they've cut that deficit by over half. It's just over 2,000 points as it, I think this was last week, as it just, or after the Tour of Flanders. And so obviously with that pace, they are going to overtake Picnic and Cofidis if they can continue like that. And Cofidis actually have overtaken Picnic because they've also been scoring with Fratin, with some other sort of classic sprinters. Izagirre might come good. Aaron Barou's okay. Picnic, Degenkolb's out of Roubaix. Huge loss for them. Only has had to rest after starting the season very well. I don't know where Max Poole is or if he's been injured. Bardet's going to retire in June after the Dauphiné, and he was their top scorer last year. It is looking really tricky for them, especially when Niels Eckhoff started to score, winning Nokkerkoers and third in Coxeter, and then he has an Achilles injury. So for Picnic, they're going to need to change something. Picnic have not focused on the farming strategy. They've sort of been trying to develop young talent, score points in the big races. They may not have that luxury anymore, and they might need to change things.
Had some terrible transfers, like signing Fabio Jakobsen, a sprinter that has had issues with positioning in a team of this team that could not position their sprinter if their life depends on it. That combination was never going to work to begin with. We said it before the transfer, and it's very visible after that transfer. Now, the sad part is, though, that he's also out of the running due to an injury right now, like artery, whatever it's called, the flow limitations in that. He's going to be off the bike now from probably most of the rest of the season, if not longer. So he won't be doing anything for that. Like, outside of him, I also haven't seen the sparkly transfers I need to see to do points in the first place. So I think it's also a failure of the transfer policy.
Yeah, and listen, it's also money. Like Astana just got a huge influx of cash from their new co-sponsor XDS, the co-title sponsor, and then they were able to spend money. Like, are Astana smart, or did they sign a shitload of riders who could score points? Some of whom haven't worked at Bettiol. Has he been value for money? No. So, but then again, like Astana, they're still getting better results, I would say, for their rider quality than I would expect. Like Scaroni, Turnison.
Is that because that money then goes to the performance around the riders?
The bike must be fine. The bike must be completely fine, like with the decathlon bike of decathlon. So, because you can't get these results in all these races maybe you can on a completely uncompetitive bike. So, and they've obviously gone into performance as well. I also want to shine a note on UnoX. UnoX are maybe moving up a little bit too late there because it's over the 3 years, their cumulative total. But this year, UnoX are doing really well. Obviously, you have Warenschold winning a major classic, but they've somehow got 30-plus-year-old Magnus Cort, who could never perform in a one-day race. He's 6th in Sanremo and Strada. Johannessen's 3rd in Torino. Blikra and Christoph are sprinting in not just minor classics, but Brugge de Panne and Wevelgem, and then Friedheim is never out of the top 10 in the Dot 1 classics. So they have all these, sort of classicsy sprinter boys, and then Johannessen looks like he's coming good. Raoul calculated they have 2.5 times the points as at this time of the year than they did at this time in 2024. So their trajectory is much better.
We're talking about this 3-year cycle now towards World Tour, but there's also stuff outside of that. There's 2 more things I want to talk about before we end this wrap-up, and we're going to talk for a little longer, because outside of the relegation, there's also, obviously, promotion, stuff like that. But if teams don't make it to World Tour, there's still ways to get access to World Tour races in the next season. Because this year, the teams that are scoring points, let's say the 26 World Tour wildcards, so access as a pro team, a second division team into a World Tour race, is dependent on your UCI points of 2025 to get the mandatory wildcards. There's also other ways to get other wildcards if your team is from the country of that race, or a high-profile riders in your team, stuff like that. But for the mandatory wildcards, the top 2 teams in the current 2025 cycle of the pro teams will get World Tour access next year. But do we also not have to then take the teams that are promoting next year out of that equation. So it's the top 2 teams that are not promoting to World Tour, that will not be World Tour in 2026, that will receive wildcard access to all World Tour level. I'm making this so much more complicated than it is, right?
But the 2 teams being promoted are, Lotto and Israel. That's already certain. And the ones that could be relegated, well, Archaea, by the way, are done. Archaea are being relegated, and at the moment, if they are relegated, they will get no wild card. That normally is a death sentence for a team because you have no guaranteed Tour de France access. Although,
especially a French team. Being
a French team, it could help in that they are French, so they could get the discretionary wild card, but it's not looking good for Archaea. Were Picnic or Cofidis to be relegated, they would not receive. Well, then it becomes very close between them and Tudor, because Tudor have around the same points as them this year. I think the reality is, depending on which team is relegated, they will kick up a fight and they will get a 3rd mandatory wildcard somehow, because that's kind of what happened last time. So I think these rules are pretty flexible, so they might change. But even if Astana are relegated, it's not the end of the world, because they are guaranteed a wild card, and UNOX may get the mandatory wild card for the first time, I think, in their existence. So Tudor Q365 need to pick it up. Where do you think this goes, Benji?
What do you mean? This whole thing?
You think Astana can keep this up?
Well, I think Picnic will keep losing losing points relative to Astana. I don't know whether Astana can keep up this pace, but they also don't need to. At the lower pace, they're also looking to pass Picnic right now. So it's on Picnic to step up. And I right now don't see that happening, which, if that doesn't happen, it's going to be Astana's to take. So I think it's becoming more and more likely that Astana does make it across the line, which I didn't believe would happen at the end of last season. And it's cool because it gives us a bit of a dynamic to talk about.
I thought it was impossible. Impossible, and that's mainly because the gap was so big, and to be frank, their performance level in the last 2 years was shit. And
dog water.
And now they have, look at Harold Martin Lopez in Catalonia. Like, it's not
in Hellas.
Yeah, but in Catalonia, he's 8th and 11th on the uphill finishes against all the Giro contenders, while Koos and Yates are way behind him. You know, and who's Harold Martin Lopez? Like, so they got loads of guys performing.
By the way, for the people that are listening to this and are like, these guys are talking absolute gibberish, I need a graph to be able to see what they're talking about. Go to the Lanterne Rouge website. One of the last articles on there is made by Raul Bancheri and has like all these graphs and like explanations of what's happening in this. The last thing I do want to mention is there's this newer rule over the last 3 years. It got gradually implemented that only the top 30 teams in the UCI point team ranking are allowed to get wildcards for a Grand Tour the year after.
The discretionary wildcards.
The discretionary wildcard, what do you mean?
So the organizer wildcard. So even if an organizer wanted to send Euskaltel to the Volta, if they're not in the top 30, they can't send them.
I think that's great. I've had a lot of criticism from Spanish people and Italian people on this because, well, it hurts their teams. Because right now, not in the top 30 is Caja Rural, Polti Visit Malta, VF Group Bardiani, and Euskaltel. Those are 4 teams that are on paper within the space where they could receive wildcards and often get wildcards for the Giro and La Vuelta. So right now, based on the current ranking, if the season ended now, they would not be able to get a wildcard for Grand Tours next year. And to me, that's great because then it's more on sporting merit. Then wildcards are given to teams that are good enough to be at Grand Tours. And the reason I see it like that is because if you're not in the top 30, it means that 5 teams from the 3rd division of the sport are in front of you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think there's development teams that are almost scoring more.
Then you're not good enough. I'm sorry.
It's probably true. And there has to be a rationalization of the amount of pro teams in Spain. There's there's too many. There's literally too many that they cannot invite them. They have to do the ASO has to do a rotation, or Unipublic has to do a rotation, and one misses out or two miss out each year because there's too many, and their performance level, the data doesn't lie. The performance level is not pro team level. But that's why, like, yeah, you can roll your eyes at when we talk about Tour of Hainan, but for these teams, like, you go and look at Tour of Hainan, and the lineups suddenly make a lot more sense in the context we've been just discussing. XDS Astana are there with a good team, with Henok and a Gate, and they're probably going to do, and Malucelli for sprints. Team Polti are there, Uscatel are there, Burgos are there, and Solution Tech Vini Fantini are there, also for points. It's a .pro race with 200 points for GC plus cascading down all the top 10. These teams are taking these races very seriously. And Benji, Max Poole's not here.
Yep.
Aaron Barou's not here. So these races, these are quote unquote easy points in Latin America and Asia, and that's where Astana are, and that's where Solution Tech Vini Fantini are.
Yeah. That's true.
Anyway, go and read the article. It's probably, it'd be make it a lot easier to read it in conjunction with our comments. But okay. Next topic, Benji. Tour de France has received approval from the top, from Macron himself.
Ooh.
Has pushed to have the Montmartre included in stage 21 of the Tour de France. So Emmanuel Macron, obviously not a fan, not a traditionalist. He's a modern day. He does not like the procession final stage. He probably tunes in like, what is this shit? Why are they having champagne?
Hot take. So, to be clear, Macron, like you say, helped push the product of getting Montmartre in. If you don't remember, Montmartre is that couple climb in Olympics Paris road race where Van der Poel smashed it, where Wout van Aert was able to follow him, that kind of stuff. That's the climb we're talking about. The Paris police chief was against the other, probably for organizational purposes. Now, we don't know the exact course of stage 21, but this is where my take drops. I think this won't change the race at all. I think this is going to be. I think there's going to be one hill before 7 laps of the Champs-Élysées. I think there's going to be 2 or 3 people that attack on it. The tempo over it will be high enough and won't necessarily be selective. I will just have the same game on the Champs-Élysées as always. That is what I expect.
I don't think Tadej Pogačar agrees with you.
Well, he's going to be in yellow by 7 minutes in front of the others based on what I've seen so far this season.
He'll go anyway.
Well,
you'll see Matteo Verscher be trying to save Total Energy season. Pogačar have 8 stage wins, and then he'll attack to close the gap to Matteo Verscher. I also don't really know what to think about this, Benji. I mean, I think they're going to race it now. I don't think they're going to just treat it like a ceremonial stage anymore.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
Depends on where it is. Is it close to the Champs-Élysées in Paris? Because I've been in both places, but I don't remember how far it is.
I mean, it's close enough. Like, they'll get there quick. But apparently it's only for 2025, so they'll do a test run. It's not for all of the foreseeable future.
For now.
For now. If it's a big success, could change. Fergus Browning has joined Hagensberm and Jayco. That's the development feeder team for Jayco Alula. It's now like a proper integrated in the structure. Like as in the difference between being a feeder team and a Devo team is when it's a Devo team, the riders can race up with the world team, and the World Tour riders can race down with the Devo team in certain races, not World Tour races. So that's now like an officially a team. Fergus Browning joins the team. And he was good in. I already said it, but if he was French or Belgian, he would have already had a contract. He literally won a pro race already last year. Normally, if you do that in your early 20s, you can get a contract. He won a stage of Tour de l'Ain ahead of Pithy in a sprint. So, yeah.
Yes, he also won K1 at the Tour Down Under. He's a bit of a punchy, hilly guy. Is the way I see him. But that being said, I want to bring something more forward, and I think I will hurt a lot of Australians in this comment. Hot take. I think the development pipeline of Australian riders has gotten a lot better over the last couple of years, to the point that the US is the one that's in the slumps.
You mean like Australians? They can make it.
I feel like there's now a proper pathway to World Tour and exist, especially with Pro Velo Super League also being present, compared to the US, where I feel like there's less of that right now.
I think
It's not great yet.
It's not great, but I agree that like so many Aussies and Kiwis have now done it through FDJ Conti, and so there's Decathlon whole structure happy to take Australians and Kiwis. FDJ happy to take them. You know that if you are good enough and your power data is good enough or results, these teams will take you. They will take you and give you a chance. And yeah, Pithy, look at Pithy now. And Fisher Black was at Visma Devo. For the Americans, I guess it works the same way, but
what are the export tariffs on American young prospects?
So they got Hot Tubes as the junior team. That's now sort of a feeder team for Ineos. So that's a step in the right direction. But in terms of the level above, yeah, I would say with Human Powered Health men's team folding, that's not good for the Americans. And then there is Project Echelon / Avelo, which I think Tyler Stites was on.
Correct.
Last couple of years. They had
a light blue jersey?
Yeah. Or something, maybe it was white and black. But they had a decent calendar in Europe. But it's tough. It's tough for these riders. So,
and it's like there is a crit scene in the US that exists a lot. We've seen a couple of riders ship over, like Lamperti ended up dominating that scene, going over to the European scene, has shown a bit of sharpness every now and then, but hasn't like broken through yet. He hasn't done what Manier has, in my personal opinion. So that I still want to see. We do have quite a bit of good US riders right now in the World Tour peloton, whether it's Sheffield, McNulty, Jorgensen, and so forth. So that's there. But it's just that I in my head, I can't see the pathway right now. And like you say, there are a few connections, but I think there's no Tour of Utah for Sepp Kuss to show himself anymore to then go to a World Tour team like Visma, that kind of stuff.
If this Tour of Colorado gets off the ground, that would be great. That was mooted earlier, but not sure if it will happen. But indeed, it's like if you're not in Europe, it's like South Africans, Oceania, Asia, North America. If you're not a super talent, like Ashlyn Barry, who's 5th in World Champs Juniors, and then you're already set, or even the guys racing with him in Germany at Cottbus in the American team, if you're Tyler Stites' age, it's tough. If you're not in that junior or U23 category, if you're a latecomer, 21, 22, it's really tough. And if you're in Denmark, Benji, you can keep riding for the restaurant team or there's like so many teams. There's just so many European-based Conti teams, and obviously it's easier to still then live where you are from and travel to European-based races. Not that it's easy for those guys either. It's not like, I'm not saying Alex Molinar had it easy. He didn't. But it's even a step harder when you're not in Europe.
What are the young riders that have not necessarily broken through yet, not even in World Tour teams yet, from these non-European teams that we're looking at? Are we talking about the Michele guy from Eritrea? Are we talking about the Brazilian kid on Quickstep Devo team?
Henrik Bravo? Yeah, he'll be fine though. He's like a big talent.
Is it like, how did he end up here? Is that because I know he was an ex-track rider, or wasn't the track cycling scene? What, sorry?
The mountain bike rider?
Oh, it was mountain bike. Sorry, not track. You're right.
No, yeah. I think he was like a big talent. And again, he's like in that young category, and he's competing in world championships on mountain bike, specialized around him. And so for him, but for like someone like Noam Zarai on Yukio, this guy deserves a pro contract. And he'll probably get one. But, he's 22. I'm not sure he's U23 eligible anymore. And he even won a stage in Rwanda. They're on the hardest stage. So, but it's difficult. Tyler Stites, it was not easy for him.
And I feel like with South American talent, it right now is kind of in the way where we have the current South American scene, which is continental teams, etc. But the places where they do show up to show themselves, or then the national championships. For example, there's that Ramirez kid that was in the Ecuadorian championships together with Cepeda and Narvaez. That kind of stuff. And that's still a pathway there, you know?
Guess for Colombia.
Ecuador.
No, I'm just saying separately. For riders 24 or 24 years old or younger, guess what the best ranked rider is in the world from Colombia at the moment?
24 or younger.
Yeah.
You're saying.
Which is not that young by today's standards. It's 504th. Jesus David Pena. Like, they have a big problem at the moment with with the younger. I mean, Ecuador's producing more young guys at the moment than Colombia.
Pena's actually a solid rider. He had a not good year last year. It wasn't shit. He had like top 10 at Tour of Austria, 13th at Slovenia. He rode for Jayco last year, yes. Then ended up getting shipped out of that team. Is now on a Portuguese scene team. I don't know what the state of Portuguese cycling is now. We've had our questionable moments in the past. I'd like to believe it's now a little bit better. We've got Pena coming through with a podium at Alentejo. He came 11th at Gran Camino, top 10 at Arabida. It's like he has had a good start to the year again. So I see a way where he is back into a better team at some point, you know?
Yeah. I'm more saying like there's not a huge amount of when you compare that to I don't know, even somewhere like Australia under 24. I mean, it's not that good either, to be honest.
We need the return of Manzano Postobon without the...
Yeah. I mean, maybe Diego Pescador will fulfill his name potential. But yeah, it's tricky for...
His name? It's just... What does it mean, Pescador?
The fisherman.
He's going to do a Vingegaard, is what you're saying.
Exactly, yes.
Win two Tour de France and then...
Movistar will be hoping for that. Okay. Scheldeprijs preview as well, just to round it off. It is I feel like I've said there's 3 different Sprinters World Championships, so why not? Sprinters World Championships on Wednesday, pancake flat. Wind can always affect this race, and you have a reduced group. In fact, a lot of the times, even it is just a group of 30. Tim Merlier is on the provisional. Jasper Philipsen is confirmed with the full lead out. Fortin for Cofidis, Welsford for Red Bull. No Milan for Trek because of his injury in the Classics, so they'll sprint with Edward Turns, I dare say. I would sprint with him, not Gonsoni. They also have Albert Phillips and Soderfist. I think they'll try to have an aggressive... Actually, maybe they got Teutenberg. Anyway, Tyson, for Wanty, Bittner for Picnic, Groenewegen for Jayco, Viviani for Lotto, Moschetti for Q365, Dainese, Christoph, a lot of good sprinters here. Who have you got, Benji?
For Scheldeprijs, I zoned out before when you said the name of the race, so I'm guessing we're talking about Scheldeprijs. For me, it's between Merlier and Philipsen. So
yeah,
I see it being that fight. I hope we don't have crashes like we had at Brugge de Panne this time around. Merlier has his usual Bert van Lerbergen. Alpecin Philipsen has his Robert Gijs, Ricard, etc. lead out train. Tim Merlier is the fastest sprinter of the two. Let that be clear. Philipsen on paper has the better lead out to me, but I still think Merlier will win.
I agree with you. I think Tim Merlier will take the Dubski. But yeah, we've got a good week of racing coming up. We're going to have our Paris-Roubaix preview on Thursday morning. And
buddy. Let's put some respect on the name of women's Scheldeprijs. It's not exactly at the same level of the men's Scheldeprijs, but I do want to yap about it because I was looking at the start list earlier. Well, it's not loading now, so I guess we're talking about something else.
It's on 0.1 level, so it does get a weaker start list, just like Dwars door Vlaanderen Women is on .pro level, although it still gets a very, very good start list. But yeah, women's Scheldeprijs is the same. Pancake flat sprint. Start list not loading for you, Benji?
No, not at all.
Well,
do I have to guess who's racing it?
Charlotte Cole racing for sure.
She has to, right? Wiebes is nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is a chance to actually win. I've got the start list. Chiara Consoni, maybe it's a Consoni family double. She's going to be the sprinter for Canyon. Julie de Wilde, the sprinter for Phoenix to Koenig, I dare say. Scarlett Schneider, interested to see how she goes. The American, she's not had a great classic so far, but she's a good crit racer in America, and this is a pancake flat technical race. But I think they're going to go for Guarici or Harrison, not sure. Maggie Cole's lister for human powered health. Balsamo, probably the biggest name sprinter outside of Charlotte Cole. This is a big chance for these riders to take a. I mean, it's as you say, it's a 0.1, but it is Scheldeprijs. It is a reasonably prestigious race for the sprinters.
Chiara Consoni.
You think Consoni? She was sharp the other day.
Was it Brugge de Pannen where she was like actually looking very fast in the Wheel of Ubis? So I'm going for Consoni.
I'm going to go... I was trying to go really off script.
Is there a ex-sprinter like Zanetti or something?
No, there's a Belarusian, Hanna Serach, on a Rome Italia 3T Viano. She's going to do a late flyer. She's like a 3 kilometer on the track. She was like a 3 kilometer specialist. It's not going to happen. It's not. Anyway, I think Charlotte Cole's going to get a ride.
Late flyers. Okay, Charlotte Cole, you're saying. Talking about late flyers, what are the odds that by the time this podcast goes up, Leitao comes in with a Gaviria-like late flyer in stage 2 of Itzulia?
I'm telling you, there's a chicane and a right turn at like 500 to go. He is going to dive bomb the shit out of any poor soul that's front wheel. And he's going to do his gimmick again. Because if you don't know, Yuri Leitao he's not even a sprinter, frankly. He's not a sprinter. He's like a pursuit specialist, like super aero. He even has his road bike set up like it's a track pursuit bike, and he gets into that position. He's got great 1-minute power, and his cornering's excellent. And he basically attacked through a late corner in a Mallorcan .1 race earlier in the year and held off the charging peloton with like a 1K or 700 meter flyer. And in Basque Country, with the lack of sprint trains, lack of sprinters, he's going to try it again today.
I was there before the hype. I signed him 5 years ago on PCM, my friend. 5 years ago.
So Olympic gold medalist, no?
Yeah, correct.
Yep. So
points, I think. Points race.
Yeah, some. Track cycling, swimming. You know my thoughts.
Backward cycling, whatever.
Backward cycling. Okay, thanks for listening as always. We'll be back on Thursday morning with the Paris-Roubaix preview of the men and women's. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining Cycling, our show partner. And until Thursday, ciao, ciao.